Every successful influencer knows that you cannot succeed unless you engage the right people at the right time. Many of us fail in our attempts to influence change because we don't know who these right people are. In one organization, that person was a ponytailed mountain of a man called Coyote. When I first met him, I assumed he'd be more likely to lead a riot than a change effort. But as you'll soon see, if you get smarter about finding your coyotes, you inherit a wealth of social influence. Everett Rogers was a researcher who wrote over 30 books during his 47-year academic career. He conducted a study of over 3,000 behavior change efforts trying to understand what produces change and how you can accelerate it. He learned two things. The first is that change always follows an S-curve. Change starts off very slowly. That's the bottom of the S. At some point, then, it begins to climb. It turns upward. It accelerates. And then it eventually levels off. It always follows that structure. The second thing that Everett Rogers found is that there are 5 different kinds of people that exist at different parts of that S-curve. If you want to accelerate change, you need to know what kinds of people adopt at what times and for what reasons. So let's break this down. The first people that adopt new behaviors he called innovators. These are the people that sit in your staff meeting and that say, ooh, sign me up. This is a great idea. These are people who tend to be fairly bright, energetic, and open to intellectual arguments. They tend to be logically persuaded. And Everett Rogers would tell you if he were sitting here today, they're exactly the wrong people to engage in your change effort. The reason is that these people lack credibility with others in the organization. While they are intelligent and forward-thinking, they don't have the social influence that will get others on board. In fact, if your effort is identified too closely with them, it will die. The second group to adopt he called early adopters or opinion leaders. They're kind of like innovators. They listen to your arguments, you can tell them why new behaviors are essential, and they'll be open to trying these things. But the difference is that they are socially connected. Other people listen to them, and that's why this group is critical for you to find. Opinion leaders may adopt new behaviors because you persuaded them. But the third group, the group he called the early majority, they'll never try your new behaviors simply because there was a logical reason to do them. They're waiting to adopt new behaviors until opinion leaders do. So the key to the adoption curve is to identify and engage those opinion leaders. The fourth group Everett Rogers called the late majority. These are people who are slowly going to adopt when they see lots of other people doing it. So once again, you never get this group until you influence opinion leaders. And finally, there are laggards. This small group is the hardest to persuade and the slowest to adopt. One of my colleagues said his wife just bought her first microwave oven. That's the definition of a laggard. So just how important are opinion leaders? Let's talk about Coyote. I once worked on a seemingly impossible influence project at a steel mill. This was heavy industry at its dirtiest, hottest, most confrontational, and scariest. And the company executives had decided to shift to a more collaborative team approach. It wasn't going to be easy. Who am I kidding? It was a moonshot. As part of the project, we brought in groups of frontline leaders and key contributors to teach them some of the more subtle elements of interpersonal communication. Getting people to sign up to a course that they quickly labeled Charm School was like pulling teeth. Eventually, the plant manager actually threatened the initial training group with their jobs just to get them to show up to training on how to get things done without threatening people. On the first day of the course, as I went around the room doing introductions, the first guy says, "My name's Coyote." I already knew this because it was tattooed on his arm. He's leaning back in his chair, his eyes closed, a scowl on his face, and essentially expressing, "Just try to teach me." I then naively asked, "Well, Coyote, why are you here?" All eyes turned to him as he took a short, dramatic pause and then barked, "I'm here because the maggots over at corporate forced me to be here." At this point, everyone in the room leans back and yelps, "Oh, Coyote!" This was going to be a challenge. But as the training unfolded, an interesting thing happened with Coyote. He started to lean forward in his chair. He started to participate. Not long after this first class ended, the training coordinator called and said, "I don't know what's going on, but we've got people begging to get into the class. We have a long waiting list." When the next session started, I once again asked the first participant, "Why are you here?" He responded, "I'm here because of Coyote." Then everyone else shouts, "Ow, Coyote!" Obviously, he's well known here. Then the fellow adds, "Coyote told me to come here because he said it would be worth my time. In fact, he told me that if he'd taken this class 6 months earlier, he'd still be married today." So what's the principle here? If you're stuck at the bottom of that S-curve, odds are you're lacking the social influence of opinion leaders. If you want to powerfully accelerate change and create widespread adoption of vital behaviors, you must find the opinion leaders and engage them in the change effort. Try to find the coyotes in your organization and partner with them in influencing change.